The next time you stand in front of the mirror, about to criticize yourself for not reaching your goals or feel inadequate comparing yourself to someone flaunting success bought with their family's money, or think you're ugly after seeing someone with hundreds of cosmetic procedures and filters, remember this. The problem is neither you nor them. It's a sweet addiction, a habit we never consciously chose, yet we pay the price. Today, one of the strongest drivers of human behavior has become our dopamine balloon, once essential for survival, finding food, mating, and even trade. Now we chase it in Instagram reels, fast food, adult content, and mindless habits. Dopamine, meant to reward us for motivation and achievement, now often destroys our drive instead. Carl Jung, a century ago, warned about this instinctive pursuit of pleasure, long before dopamine was understood scientifically. He not only warned but suggested a solution. Pleasure-seeking is rarely for pleasure itself. It is a way to silence things we dare not face. While we have discussed dopamine in many contexts, few talk about its hormonal counterpart, the true hero of long-term fulfillment, serotonin. Unlike dopamine, serotonin doesn't provide instant gratification. It sustains happiness over time, supports self-esteem, and fuels genuine pleasure. Today, we will explore how philosophers and psychologists throughout history advised boosting serotonin while curbing dopamine, helping us reclaim motivation and joy from the modern traps around us. When was the last time you felt truly satisfied without needing more? Not just entertained, but deeply content, free from the cravings dopamine feeds. Dopamine demands ever more, like trying to extinguish a fire with gasoline. Epicurus, a Greek philosopher over 2,200 years ago, categorized pleasure into three types: natural and necessary, food, sleep, affection; natural but unnecessary, luxuries, fashion; and unnatural and unnecessary, power, wealth, fame. As history progresses, natural pleasures shrink while man-made. Unnecessary pleasures multiply. A 14 or 15-year-old today can encounter more stimuli and indulgence in a single day than a king in centuries past. Now imagine if that same teenager lived 200 years ago. Would they find joy in the same things? This shows how pleasure is largely constructed by environment and context. To illustrate, consider this scenario. You wake up and go to work. On the way, you have a car accident but then get a call announcing you've won a prize. Now imagine the reverse. You first receive the prize, then the accident occurs. Which scenario feels better? Most would choose the first. Experiencing good after the setback feels rewarding. This simple example reveals how our perception of happiness, luck, and pleasure is fluid, shaped by order and timing. Modern neuroscience confirms what philosophers hinted. The pleasures we indulge in today often spike dopamine without cultivating serotonin, disrupting balance. A person 2,000 years ago gained dopamine from some actions, serotonin from others. Today, serotonin remains scarce, but dopamine hits are hundreds of times higher. Epicurus described life as pursuing pleasure, yet he warned, the highest pleasure isn't indulgence, but the absence of pain in the body and anxiety in the mind. In other words, true pleasure is found in being, discovering, and presence, not mere acquisition. Dopamine insists, I'm not happy until I get it. Serotonin says, I am already content as I am free from pain. This distinction also highlights modern marketing's power. Consumerism triggers dopamine to sell products, exploiting our psychological wiring. Those struggling with addiction, overeating, or compulsive consumption can attest to the costs of dopamine-driven pleasure. Philosophers from Buddha to Jung remind us that pleasure intertwined with pain or avoidance lacks true value. The key is seeking experiences that nourish, not just entertain, providing real, enduring satisfaction. Finally, consider Arthur Schopenhauer's wisdom. Life oscillates between suffering and boredom. When you lack, you suffer. When you gain, new desires emerge, bringing frustration. Pleasure as the core motivation of action leads to endless striving, never true contentment. Modern humans, born into the digital age, cannot simply replicate ancient dopamine levels or pursuits. By understanding the distinction between dopamine and serotonin, and how pleasure is manipulated, we can navigate our lives with more autonomy, self-respect, and enduring happiness. This first part of our exploration into pleasure, dopamine, and serotonin shows that the real path to fulfillment is through awareness, self-mastery, and prioritizing the pleasures that strengthen our mind and spirit, rather than just feeding temporary cravings. Continuing from our exploration of dopamine and serotonin, Let's discuss how to reclaim real pleasure and strengthen your self-control in the modern world. One of the most powerful truths is that dopamine-driven pleasure is often a shortcut, a quick hit to silence discomfort or boredom, not a path to true fulfillment. When we rely on it, we become addicted to novelty, constant stimulation, and instant gratification. Our brains learn that only external rewards matter, while internal satisfaction fades. Jung observed that pleasure has memory. Every time we use it to silence pain, our bodies adapt, making the discomfort worse without it. This is the trap that modern digital life has perfected. Our phones, social media, endless scrolling, and entertainment constantly feed dopamine, reinforcing avoidance instead of presence. To counteract this, we need strategies that actively cultivate serotonin, the hormone of long-term contentment, calm confidence, and real accomplishment. Epicurus emphasized that natural pleasures like meaningful connections, wholesome food, and restful sleep nurture the soul, while excess and artificial stimuli lead to emptiness. Incorporating small daily practices such as gratitude reflection, mindful movement, or connecting with nature strengthens serotonin pathways. For instance, taking a walk without a phone, focusing on your breath, the environment, and your steps allows your mind to settle into the present moment, reducing stress and increasing inner peace. This is the antidote to dopamine-driven distraction. Schopenhauer reminds us that life alternates between suffering and boredom, but the quality of our inner experience determines our satisfaction. Seeking pleasure for its own sake, constantly chasing dopamine, guarantees frustration. Instead, orient your actions around values, purpose, and mastery. When you pursue goals for the growth they bring rather than the instant reward, you activate serotonin, building resilience and enduring joy. Lao Tzu also taught that clinging too tightly leads to loss. Letting go of superficial desires allows space for meaningful fulfillment. You don't have to abandon ambition, but ensure your motivation stems from intrinsic growth, contribution, and well-being, rather than external validation or fleeting excitement. Practical steps to balance dopamine and serotonin include limiting screen time, practicing delayed gratification, engaging in regular physical activity, getting early morning sunlight exposure, and developing micro-habits that promote mastery and mindfulness. Start small: a 10-minute walk, a single act of kindness, a short meditation, or journaling gratitude. Over time, these build a foundation of genuine pleasure that is self-sustaining. Unlike dopamine spikes, serotonin-fueled satisfaction doesn't fade quickly. It accumulates and deepens, reinforcing your sense of agency, self-worth, and clarity. It's essential to recognize the subtle traps modern life sets. Marketing, social media, and comparison culture are designed to hijack dopamine circuits. Awareness is the first defense. Observe your impulses, question the source of pleasure, and differentiate between temporary distraction and real nourishment. Ask yourself, am I indulging this desire to escape discomfort, or am I choosing it to strengthen my mind, body, and spirit? This conscious discernment rewires the brain, gradually diminishing the grip of instant gratification. Finally, remember that developing serotonin-based satisfaction doesn't reject dopamine entirely. It teaches balance. Occasional pleasures are healthy, but they should serve life, not dominate it. As Jung, Epicurus, Schopenhauer, and modern neuroscience suggest, true fulfillment arises when we align daily practices with intrinsic values, maintain control over attention, and prioritize experiences that build resilience, insight, and contentment. This path may not be as flashy as chasing viral trends or instant rewards, but it delivers something far more enduring: autonomy, calm, confidence, and the ability to enjoy life as it unfolds, moment by moment. By practicing these principles consistently, you cultivate a mind that can navigate the modern world without falling prey to fleeting dopamine highs, while deeply appreciating the sustained, nourishing pleasure that serotonin provides. The journey from reactive craving to deliberate, aware satisfaction is the essence of mature happiness, a state of well-being that is within reach for anyone willing to understand the science, philosophy, and practice of the hormones shaping our lives.